first time I consumed someone else's memory, it came wrapped in silver chain and sweat. It was a Tuesday when Mara walked into my office, eyes rimmed red, hands clenched around a cheap velvet pouch. "My sister," she said. "She wore this every day. I can't even look at it anymore." She placed the pouch on the table like it might explode. "I just want to forget," she whispered. I nodded slowly, as if I didn't already know what she was about to ask. Mara had been my patient for 5 years. None of the conventional methods helped. This new approach, my experimental ritual, was undocumented, unlicensed, and deeply personal. It involved an object, silence, and deep hypnosis. The subject visualized the memory flowing into the item. Then, we burned it. But this time I did something different. I didn't burn the necklace. I touched it, and I felt warm. Not physically, but mentally, like something heavy shifted off my shoulders. Mara exhaled, and for the first time in weeks, she smiled. That night, I dreamed of a cold lake. Mara's sister stood waist-deep in the water, hair plastered to her face, mouth open in a scream I couldn't hear. Her eyes met mine, and I bolted awake, drenched in sweat. I chalked it up to suggestion, nothing more. But when I passed by the mirror on my way to the kitchen, I saw her reflection behind me. Just for a second. The necklace still sat on my desk. I picked it up again, and without thinking, pressed it to my tongue. It didn't dissolve, not like food, but I felt it again. That wave of quiet release. The screaming in my mind stopped. I wanted to believe it was a coincidence. But when my second patient brought in her husband's wedding band, sobbing, shaking, and I touched it, I felt the same release. Stronger this time. The weight lifted. It wasn't mine. It was hers. She left smiling through tears. I sat frozen for 10 minutes, staring at the ring as it warmed in my palm like a living thing. That night, I dreamed of a funeral I never attended. I was behind the widow, watching her knees buckle as the casket was lowered. I felt her heart break, like it was my own. When I woke up, I was crying. I told myself it was therapeutic, research even. But every new object brought me more than insight. It brought me relief, euphoria. I stopped burning the items. I started keeping them. I told patients the fire was symbolic now, and it worked. They got better. I got hungrier. Each object whispered. Some sobbed. Some screamed. All wanted to be remembered. But I remembered too much. Not just their pain. Details, places, names I never lived. They clung to me like spiderwebs I couldn't wipe away. I started hearing voices that weren't mine. Some soft, like lullabies. Others sharp, commanding, foreign. They argued. They wept. They told me stories from lives I'd never lived. One night, I opened my eyes and found myself sitting at my desk, holding a photo I didn't remember taking. It was of a child in a yellow raincoat, smiling in the sun. I don't know who she was, but I cried like I'd lost her. And in the silence that followed, a voice in my head said, "We know you now." I tried to stop. I locked the drawer, discarded the newest item, a burnt scarf. But I couldn't sleep. My body ached. My mind was too quiet. In desperation, I retrieved the scarf, held it, inhaled it. Relief came like a drug, and with it, a memory that wasn't mine. A man watching his house burn, unable to speak. I screamed, but the scream was someone else's. The mirror didn't lie. I looked like myself, but different. Hollowed out. Shadows moved behind my eyes. When I smiled, it felt shared, like someone else was pulling the strings. I covered the mirror. Didn't help. Reflections appeared on blank walls. Glasses of water. My own pupils dilated when I wasn't thinking. One night, I whispered, "Who's there?" And 20 voices whispered back, "You." I forgot my mother's birthday, then her name, then where I grew up. Pieces of me were being eaten, not chewed, not destroyed, just replaced. I saw myself writing in a journal I didn't own, dreaming of streets I'd never walked. The voices weren't content with whispering anymore. They wanted to live. The more I fed, the stronger they became. They knew which objects held deeper pain. They led me to clients, pushed my hand toward boxes I hadn't noticed. I didn't resist. Why would I? The warmth was a balm, and the cold of silence unbearable now. I had become their priest, their gate, their keeper, and their home. One morning, I woke up in someone else's bed. The house was unfamiliar. The photos on the wall weren't mine, but I recognized the child. The yellow raincoat. I looked at my hands. They weren't mine either. And when I spoke, a woman's voice came out. Inside, I was screaming. Outside, she said, "Breakfast time, sweetie." I don't know how long I stayed inside her, but when I returned to my own body, days had passed. The objects were gone, replaced by new ones, and new voices joined the choir. Some desperate, some angry, some ancient. I understood then. I wasn't hosting memories. I was hosting them. Clients still came. I still smiled. Still took their grief-worn relics. But behind my eyes, I was counting seconds, tracking voices, watching them jockey for control. Sometimes I blacked out mid-session. Sometimes I said things I shouldn't know. Nobody questioned me. Pain blinds people more than darkness ever could. I tried drowning them, submerging the objects in bleach, burying them. But the whispers returned in dreams, stronger, closer. I tried silence chambers, fasting, isolation, but they were inside me now. You can't silence a crowd that lives in your marrow. In a lucid moment, I returned to my childhood home. It was boarded up, empty. Inside, I found a shoebox filled with cassette tapes, recordings of my voice, therapy sessions I never remembered. One tape was labeled "Ellis Recovered." My voice. They're not memories, they're passengers. I stopped taking clients. I destroyed the drawer, burned every item I had left. The voices screamed. I screamed back. For a day, I felt alone, and I missed them. That was when I knew I was no longer just me. The entity had no name. It didn't speak until I was alone in the dark. "I am your silence," it said. And suddenly, I remembered the day I watched my brother drown. I had never told anyone, not even myself. That was the first memory I ever fed. They tried to push back in. One by one, the voices returned, fainter, hungrier. But I had changed. I no longer needed them to feel. I remembered everything, including what I'd become to them. A source, not a victim. They turned against each other inside me. An endless war of names and traumas. I watched from a void, tethered to my body by one remaining thought. I will not forget who I am. It was enough. Barely. The last object I found was a photograph of my mother. I touched it. I braced for the pull, but nothing came. No voice, no warmth, just peace. And then I realized I had no grief left to give. I moved. New name, new job, no clients, no relics. But sometimes, when I pass mirrors, I still see her. The girl in the raincoat. She smiles. I nod. And we move on. A knock at the door. A man holding a stuffed bear. My daughter, he said. She died last spring. I don't do that anymore, I replied. He didn't cry, just placed the bear at my feet. She had your voice, he whispered, and walked away. I keep the bear in a box. I never touch it. It sits on the shelf like a question I refuse to answer. The voices are gone, but silence, I've learned, is louder than grief, and some memories feed themselves.